So this is a fun one. Always a fun one when we're talking about Alex Jones. And so obviously Elon made big news when he unfroze Alex Jones's Twitter accounts. That brought Alex Jones really back into the public conversation in a way that he had not been for years, because between YouTube and Facebook and Twitter banning him and Apple Podcasts banning him, he still had his shop open, but you had to kind of go to his website to find it, right? And, you know, him getting his X account back made him part of the public conversation in a way that he obviously missed and he obviously values now. And now his videos get hundreds of thousands of views on X when they go live. He streams there. And so he's obviously grateful to Elon for that. And I would speculate that that informs his bias and his sort of instinct to protect Elon against accusations that he sold out the MAGA movement. But in the wake of the H-1B visa debacle, obviously Elon crossed MAGA on that, which puts Alex in a bit of a tough position. And so here he is, first calmly explaining why he chose to back Elon, and then not so calmly explaining.
When I look at Elon Musk X feed, I mean, it basically 95% of it sounds like I wrote it. And I'm not saying he's saying what I say, just he sees things pretty much the same as I do on most issues. And he has the biggest voice in the world other than Trump. And he's more prolific than Trump. So technically in the info war, he's more powerful than Trump. And I'm not trying to name names here and say who's who. But in my view, I mean, Musk is wrecking the globalists. So that's why I've been gushing over his transformation the last 3.5 years, is because he's doing irrevocable harm to their agenda. And I'm going to go over some of the good things he's done. But that said, a lot of people have wanted me to attack Musk, and most people just do it for attention, or they're jealous or whatever. And they just want to act like they're the holiest of the free speech people. And most of the time I can't even understand what they're talking about, or they twist things. And then I defend Musk, like on the visas, the H-1B visas, not defending H-1B visas. I've had big problems with those. It should be massively reformed, 95%. And I mean, I'm the same as Steve Bannon on that. We need a moratorium until, you know, the country's turned around, all the rest of this stuff. We need to get Americans jobs. But I just simply said, Musk has always been for these visas for skilled workers that he needs. And you can get mad at him for that, but he was the big game changer. And Trump probably couldn't have made it past the fraud without him. I mean, let's not lie about that. And so flipping out and saying that Elon Musk has flip-flopped or stabbed people in the back, I said, that's crap.
Okay, we're going to pause for a minute before we get to the really fun part of this. That's a cop-out to say that, well, he's always been pro H-1B visa. Elon Musk has trafficked in the most hawkish of anti-immigrant rhetoric, not just as it pertains to the MAGA movement, but as it pertains to countries around the world, right? Talking about the problem of, to pull an example from 10 years ago, right? Muslims in Europe, right? Which now he's tweeting about incessantly, that he's been called out about the H-1B visas, as Russ was saying. Yep. So to say, well, this has always been a position, Elon Musk was not even MAGA until mid-July. He was more in the RFK lane.
He voted for Biden.
Right. He voted for Biden in 2020.
What globalists is he wrecking? He's a globalist.
Of course.
He's just another wing of the globalists. He's an aesthetically different globalist. He's a globalist.
He had always been that. And then he gloms onto the MAGA campaign, and he's welcomed in with open arms. Why? Because he has a ton of money. And at the rank and file, MAGA thought that they had won Elon Musk over and that now he was one of them. And he supported the most hawkishly anti-immigrant candidate in modern history. Now, you want to say, well, he's always been supportive of H-1B visas. Well, we didn't hear about that until after Donald Trump won, until after the game was over. And now he comes out during the transition and not only makes his preference known, but completely twists Donald Trump in knots. So you can't say it wasn't a betrayal just because he's always held this opinion. He's always held a lot of opinions that MAGA doesn't like. Don't forget, he voted for Biden in 2020. The thing that has MAGA pissed off is he signed on to their platform.
He's for
and
carbon
what we're finding
taxes.
out now, right? Well, what we're finding out
I thought
now
oil is our friend.
is that he did it as a Trojan horse. He used MAGA as a Trojan horse.
Right.
So that's what has people upset about that.
I'm sorry, man. You know, to me, the message of the Heaven's Gate cult that talked people into self-deleting because they thought a comet was a spaceship that was going to take them to another planet. Now, if you look at the guy who talked them into that, you wouldn't buy a vacuum cleaner from that guy. And he got people to do that. And what that taught me, what I took away from that, I was fascinated by it at the time. I said, you know, people will believe anything from anyone as long as they present it with enough conviction and confidence. You'll get some people that will believe literally pretty much anything. Like, you couldn't really go further out than that, right? That is Alex Jones to me. The fact that you would watch this guy and be like, oh, yeah, man, no, this isn't a performance. This isn't performative. This guy is really a sincere, honest warrior for truth, not a grifting scumbag doing what we will acknowledge, we both acknowledge, is really artistically brilliant performance art.
Oh, yeah. Well, speaking of performance art, all right, well, we're going to get to that in just a second. So here we go. First, we'll play the remainder of Calm Alex.
And a lot of people went, oh, my God, you're for open borders now. Yeah, right. I just simply said, hey, on that issue or whatever, separate from the issue itself, when you knew what he was for on that, what is the point of flipping out and behaving like it's something else?
A few moments later.
What the hell? And he's exposing Jeffrey Epstein and the CIA. Hell, last week he put out tweets about the CIA at war with America. God almighty. Jones sold out retweeting that. God, I apologize to all of you. I'm sorry. I sold out. I tried to stop the pedophile rings, the giant Muslim kidnapping rings. I'm sorry. I kissed Elon Musk's ass. We're so close to getting the globalists. I want their throat. I want victory. And now you can see it. And you guys think you're going to harass Elon Musk and push him off of supporting Trump and divide Trump and Elon? You're not.
Okay, so you see what he just did
We
there?
have already beat.
You see what he just did there? I want to play this last part of it.
Now you can see it. And you guys think you're going to harass Elon Musk and push him off of supporting Trump and divide Trump and Elon? You're not.
Okay, so he acts as if it's the globalists who are conducting this psyop on MAGA and driving a wedge between MAGA and turning the rank and file against Elon Musk. No, this outcry came from MAGA. It came from the rank and file.
Right.
It came from the bottom. And he's trying to contort it into saying this is an op that you guys fell for. No, it's not. No, it's not. That's number one. Number two, and this is a very important point, I think, because, you know, Russell has made the important point as it pertains to the Democratic Party. He says you cannot have a Wall Street-owned left party. A party that claims to be left but is owned by Wall Street is doomed to fail. It's doomed to implode under the weight of its own contradictions because it is a contradiction in terms. Well, the same thing is being found out here on the MAGA side. You cannot have a billionaire-owned populist party. Right. That is as much a contradiction in terms as a Wall Street-owned left party. And this is why when Alex melts down, he says, but what about the grooming gangs or what about the gender stuff, you know, that Elon fights for? And he goes on, he lists off mostly culture war issues later in this monologue to talk about all the good that Elon's done. Right. What a certain faction of the MAGA rank and file, and I wish it was more, but I'm thankful for the people who have seen the light on this, is that absent from Elon's victories and absent from what Alex touts as being so great about Elon is a class analysis. In other words, yes, Elon backs you on the culture war. He backs you on the corruption of Western culture by immigrants. He backs you on the gender wars, right? But when it comes to dollars and cents, he takes the oligarchs' side, which is why you cannot have a billionaire-dominated populist movement. Maybe in that sense, there is no such thing as right-wing populism. Now, the left, Chris Hedges said this a few years ago, the left, in his words, have committed suicide by abandoning economic populism in favor of elevating divisive culture war topics, right? So you could say that the left has gotten in its own way and sort of deprioritized economic populism in favor of a toxic and divisive culture war. You could say they've gotten in their way of that. But populism and left-wing economic politics do go hand in hand. Right-wing economics and populism do not mix. They are like oil and water. And that is what people are understanding now. Okay, going all in on the gender wars, that's not really populist. That's just conservative. If you're going to be populist, you have to have a class analysis. You must have a class analysis. And any populist movement that sides with billionaires over workers is not a populist movement. Do you know why? Because there's only a handful of billionaires in the world, and there are billions of working class people in the world, hence the term populism. Populism is about majoritarian popular issues that affect large populations of people. That's what it is. And that contradiction, that is the wedge that's been driven through MAGA. And it's unfortunate, but not surprising, that Alex Jones finds himself on the wrong side of that because Alex Jones needs Elon.
Yeah, well, it's falling apart for the same exact reason, because Wall Street and workers do not have common interests. Billionaires and working people do not have common interests. This Randian vision that, well, everyone who's a billionaire gets there on their own steam, not because their families owned emerald mines and diamond mines, nothing like that, not because as with Bill Gates's family sat on the board of IBM and gave him his first contract. It's not that. It's all elbow grease. It's all hard work and talent. And so you know what that means? You could be a billionaire too. Everyone could be a billionaire. In the end, when you put these people in power, they're not going to do anything for you. And they are very skilled in throwing out these kinds of cultural outrages, which if they didn't exist, they'd have to invent them. And sometimes they actually do. And this goes for both parties, because both parties need those culture war issues to hide their actual agenda, which is serving Wall Street. That's why the idea that this was a triumph of the people, like Cenk is running around saying the establishment's been defeated. No, it hasn't. The establishment goes on unconcerned with the results of elections. The deep state is just fine. They have their wars. You could definitely argue it's easier this way because now you don't even have to pretend that you care about people. I mean, they do in this culture war sense, but they don't have to offer any real economic relief because they've just peddled this Randian philosophy, which inherently is about bootstraps. Just get rid of the immigrants. They're the ones messing everything up. Get the immigrants out of here and you're good. They got exposed with the H-1B visas as just being the hypocrites that they are. All of a sudden, grooming gangs. This is, I said, people are sharing articles from freaking 9 years ago.
Yep.
I'm not saying it's not a real thing. I'm not saying it's made up. I'm saying, why now? Why not? Isn't that a little strange? Right when they were back on their heels with the H-1B visas, all of a sudden they want you talking about grooming gangs. It is the oldest trick in the book. There is nothing that will automatically get a knee-jerk reaction like sexual assault. Sexual assault. The other is going to sexually assault your tribe, the people within your tribe. Now, again, I'm not saying the story's not true, but there's a reason that this old, almost decade-old story is all of a sudden supposed to be the outrage of the day so that you're not talking about H-1B visas. You think Elon, just like these guys did not just wake up and decide, you know what, we need to sue the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau because it makes it hard for people to get credit who can't get credit. Like, they give a fuck about that. These people don't care that you don't have health care. You think they care that you don't have credit?
Right. No,
They
it's pretty
literally
transparent.
sat down. I promise you. Elon sat down and said, "Well, how can we change the conversation? How can we
Right.
change the conversation?" And that's it. And they did. They did. I see people who I like and respect sharing around about the grooming gang. It's like, dude, how easy are you to manipulate?
Well, it's just like, I mean, even what Alex Jones said about the Epstein stuff, you know, all of that stuff. And I'm not saying that stuff isn't real and that stuff isn't worth learning about and isn't
They're all
worth
connected to
critiquing.
it. They're all connected to it.
Well, but what I would say is that if at the end of the day you are going to side with billionaires over the people, if you're going to side with, to put it, you know, in Marxist terms, with capital over labor or with management over workers, however you like to think of it, then all of that stuff just kind of hits a brick wall anyway.
Right.
Because the point of learning about all of that stuff is to learn how ordinary people are subjugated by elites.
Right.
And if your only critique of that is through a cultural lens, then at a certain point, the smartest among the rank and file are going to ask, okay, well, all this Epstein stuff, right, all the immigration stuff, all the cultural stuff, yeah, we're on board with that, but eventually they're going to ask, where's the beef? Where's the
why hasn't my life improved?
Exactly. So how is all of this pursuit of knowledge and insight, and how does all of this maneuvering towards getting our people in positions of power, how is it going to improve my life? At what point do I start faring better as a result of having followed you? And if you don't deliver on that, then a certain cohort of people who followed you are going to turn their back on you, as well they should. So even if what you're saying, even if you pursue certain truths, if you don't have the core class analysis that says that all of this knowledge is in pursuit of bettering the lives of ordinary people, not just culturally, not just in their mind, not just in their heart and soul, but materially, if you do not have as part of your mission to materially empower ordinary people, you are going to be exposed sooner or later. That's what happened to Elon, and that's what's happening now to Alex Jones to a certain extent. Because, you're with them on all the stuff that gets them riled up and angry, and maybe it's satisfying to back you to slay those dragons, but guess what? If there ain't a bag of money at the end of it for you, then what was it all for? What was it all for?
Well, that's part of where, for movements like this, one of the worst things that could happen to them is to gain power.
Well, yeah, that's the other thing, right? Exactly.
Okay. Well, now,
the grift holding it all together was the Democrats.
Right.
I mean, the glue holding it together. Yeah.
Right. Now you own all this.
Yeah.
Now you own all of it. It's going to be a lot harder when people are not able to feed their families to start screaming about drag shows in Tuscaloosa. You know, nobody. Oh, really? That's it? That's the whole payoff. It's the whole payoff to this whole movement. But yeah, man, it's amazing how quickly the wheels are coming off. And I think what people are going to find out sooner rather than later is once they're done kicking the immigrants' asses, you're next.
Yeah, you're next. Exactly.
You're next. It's not all of a sudden going to be 1955 in America again.
Please clap.